I mean, from the left's perspective, not only can't you get in the way of their open borders agenda, that if you seek to enforce the law, they're going to put your life at risk. So another big issue, speaking of aliens, is the issue of the illegal alien invasion under Biden and the ability of the federal government under President Trump to try to reverse the invasion. And what has happened is the left has joined an insurrection, or is engendering an insurrection, a rebellion against federal law, placing ICE agents and federal agents and other law enforcement at risk, placing American citizens at risk, actually placing deportees at risk by making the apprehension of the deportees pursuant to law much more dangerous because of obstruction and interference, and generally undermining the rule of law. So it's not enough that they've allowed, under the Biden administration, an invasion of the United States, the largest human trafficking operation, the largest child trafficking operation in the history of humanity to take place. Now that the rule of law has been restored and the president is trying to reverse it, they're obstructing justice in that regard, aiding and abetting this lawlessness through sanctuary policies and through essentially incitement against the enforcement of the law. And we filed 2 lawsuits to ferret out some of the more notorious examples of that. And that one lawsuit was filed against Katie Hobbs, who is, I think her name is Katie Hobbs, is it? Is that her first name, Katie? Yeah, it is Katie Hobbs. She's the governor of Arizona. And she made a series of statements attacking federal law enforcement and, contrary to Arizona state law, being explicit in saying that she would not cooperate. What did she say? In November of 2024, Hobbs responded to a question on whether Arizona's state police and National Guard would assist with federal immigration enforcement efforts by stating, "What I will unequivocally say is that as governor, I will not tolerate efforts that are part of misguided policies that harm our communities, that threaten our communities, that terrorize our communities. And Arizona will not take part in those. We will not be participating in misguided efforts that harm our communities." Federal Arizona law, no official or agency of this state, etc., may limit or restrict the enforcement of federal immigration laws to less than the full extent permitted by federal law. So what we asked for under the Arizona Public Records Law any communications, memos, or orders issued to state agencies reflecting a policy of non-participation, that's a nice way of putting it, in federal immigration enforcement, and documentation of any legal analyses or contemplated litigation related to the governor's stance on state-level involvement in immigration enforcement. Now, we asked for these records back in December of 2024, and we filed the lawsuit. I guess we filed it just this last month. Let me look at the date here. October 27th, there's the date stamp, 2025, Judicial Watch versus the Office of Arizona Governor. And she didn't respond. Her office didn't respond at all. So then the press started asking them questions. Well, what about this Judicial Watch lawsuit? They asked for records back in December. He didn't respond. And then they start telling the press, well, we didn't get any requests for help from the feds, so we don't have any documents. Well, There were no documents about the statement. You didn't tell your people about what you wanted to do with the feds. So we're suspicious. I mean, we've gotten answers like that before. Remember Fani Willis, who said she had no documents about collusion with the Justice Department or Congress, when in fact she did? And she was caught lying about it? So this is a great little lawsuit. I mean, and frankly, her statement itself deserved not only investigation, but she should be excoriated for publicly undermining the rule of law and placing law enforcement and other innocents at risk. Similarly, you've got this crazed insurrection in Chicago and in Illinois being pushed by the Governor Pritzker and local officials against the efforts of the Trump administration to find and deport people who have no legal right to be here, illegal aliens. Am I allowed to call them illegal aliens? Unlawfully present individuals. Undocumented people, migrants, whatever phrase you want to use. You know what they're trying to do, which is to disguise the fact they're here contrary to federal law and have no right to be here. Evanston, Illinois, who Judicial Watch is suing separately in a class action lawsuit for giving reparations to people based on race, so blacks can get the money, whites can't get the money. You can look at more details in that lawsuit below. That's a class action civil rights lawsuit. The mayor there was involved in some of these outrageous protests in Chicago we've been reading about and seeing on the news all over the place. I think we can probably go find some video and show you what's going on outside the ICE detention facility, or what had been going on outside the ICE detention facility in Broadview, Illinois, which is in Chicago. And the mayor of Evanston was in at least one of those dangerous protests.
So deal with it. I have a right. Do something about it.
We want liberation! Job! It's like a fucking job!
So we had asked the Evanston mayor, Daniel Biss, B-I-S-S, under the Illinois Freedom of Information Act. Let's go see what we asked for. That's what I love about Judicial Watch. I think this is all interesting. I presume you think it's interesting too. So our investigators are so smart. So what happens is we file Freedom of Information requests, and we've been doing this for 31 years, so we know how to ask for government records. And we know that when we make the initial request, we may be suing over them. So if you're a government official, you don't want to get a FOIA from Judicial Watch, because we know what we're asking for, and we know we have the right to the records. And if you're going to play games, you're not only going to be subject to lawsuits, but you're going to be subject to lawsuits that are going to get the records out. Let's go to the press release, or the document that shows you records of Biss's activities related to ICE U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement operations, including Operation Midway Blitz, which is the law enforcement operation set up by the Trump ICE operation to target illegal aliens in Chicago who are there by the tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. And the protests at the ICE facility in Broadview where tear gas was deployed in September 2025, and Biss was there. Think of the way the left has talked about January 6th. If you were anywhere near the Capitol on January 6th, they essentially thought you should be thrown in jail. Here, he's in a position, an elected official is in a position outside of a federal facility where either, I'm not quite sure if there was state law enforcement or federal law enforcement, had to deploy tear gas to disperse a dangerous crowd. Yeah, we want records about what this guy was up to. And we want communications about the involving Biss and the attacks on ICE. And he's a real extremist on these issues. In order to subvert and obstruct ICE enforcement operations, in Evanston, I guess they have they have license plate readers, which we were told protect all of us, right? Well, he turned them off because they might help the feds protect us from illegal aliens by finding where they are and removing them. Use of taxpayer resources, city resources and taxpayer time on ICE-related protests, and any sanctuary city policies out there. On September 11th, 2025, Biss said that upon learning of planned federal immigration enforcement activity in Evanston, he notified residents so they could protect themselves. And as I said, it was September 19th that he was part of a crowd of leftist insurrectionists harassing and endangering federal law enforcement and citizens generally outside that ICE facility in Broadview, Illinois. In October of 2025, Evanston issued a press release discussing ICE-free zones and strategies for state and local agencies, including the Secretary of State, et cetera, to hinder federal immigration enforcement policies. So like Governor Hobbs in Arkansas, like the other sanctuary politicians aiding and abetting illegal criminal activity, they're placing federal law enforcement at risk. And it's not just a hypothetical situation. We know the left has been radicalized even more to assault and endanger the lives of federal law enforcement who are just trying to enforce the law. I mean, from the left's perspective, not only can't you get in the way of their open borders agenda, that if you seek to enforce the law, they're going to put your life at risk. And they're going to encourage others to target you with violence and worse. And I don't say that lightly. I don't know how many examples we need to hear or see. They nearly killed President Trump twice, they being the left. Biden administration and Democrats in Congress tried to put his life at risk. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a leftist. These are dangerous times, my fellow citizens, and the dangers are increasing because the left has embraced, without apology, violence to advance their political agenda, increase power, obtain power. And so what we aim to do is enforce the rule of law how best we can and expose where we can what's truly at issue here and the unlawful behavior of government officials who are behind this incitement and efforts to destroy our constitutional republic. And that's why we filed 2 FOIA lawsuits in 2 separate states to get access to the information. I mean, Judicial Watch just isn't, Judicial Watch just doesn't sue the federal government here in Washington, D.C. I mean, I've talked about how just in this report to you alone, we've got 5 different lawsuits in 5 different states on major public policy issues, immigration and elections. There's nothing like it in America, Judicial Watch. There's nothing like us. It's just great work. I know I'm president of Judicial Watch and I'm saying that, but objectively speaking, it's great work. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.